Hello, America. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here across the United States. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, would be delighted to have you. As always, if you text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, we'd love to have you be on the program. We have begun sending some emails, just so you know, to those of you who have texted Army as well. If you text Army to 33777 and subscribe, I have been made aware Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles are leaving talk radio. I've been a guest host of Ben's for some time and suspected this was coming, and a number of his radio affiliates are thinking of putting me on in his place. And so I've been sending emails to listeners in areas of those stations saying, yeah, if you want to call and tell them you listen. We will close this year with 100% growth in affiliates of this show. So great growth going forward. We got to begin, and I wasn't going to start it this way, but I actually think it's appropriate to start it this way. PolitiFact comes out with its lie of the year, and it has announced that its lie of the year is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance claiming Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating people's pet dogs and cats. They say that's the lie of the year. You know what could have been the lie of the year? Could have been Joe Biden saying all year long he would never pardon Hunter Biden. But no, they decided the lie of the year was Donald Trump and J.D. Vance making that claim to highlight the absurdities of what was going on in Springfield, Ohio. It is an example of the media's bias in determining that that was a lie of the year. You know how I know that wasn't a damaging lie, despite the fact this is how they claim it in their tweet, quote, a lie marked a town and its residents in the name of campaign rage. It was absurd. It was consequential. Our lie of the year goes to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for false claims that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio were eating pet dogs and cats. That's their lie of the year in Springfield, Ohio. Here's the thing, and this is how I know that the lie of the year is not as consequential as they think. PolitiFact may say that it was very consequential that Trump and Vance lied about the Haitians eating pets, but the reality is they won Springfield, Ohio. It's the first time a Republican candidate for office has won Springfield, Ohio in a very long time. So it may have been not true to highlight what was going on there, an absurdity to highlight the absurdity, which is a rhetorical tactic that some deploy, particularly Donald Trump. He won Springfield, Ohio. So to the extent it was consequential, yeah, he won a place that Republicans haven't won. Why? Because the residents are deeply frustrated with the Haitian immigrants there. And yet PolitiFact rather, could have named the lie of the year Joe Biden lying about pardoning Hunter Biden, but no, they decided to do this one. It is an ongoing game the media plays in how they stoke outrage and cover things, which is a perfect segue into Madison, Wisconsin. A 15-year-old girl in Madison, Wisconsin opened fire at a school, killing several, including herself, and injuring others. A second grader is the one who called 911. And Joe Biden, like Barack Obama before him, decided to leave no death unwasted, and last night demanded gun control yet again. What I find very notable about this is that Joe Biden did not come out for gun control after an assassin attempted to kill Donald Trump, and Joe Biden did not come out for gun control after an assassin killed United Health CEO Brian Thompson, but kill a few kids, and by God, the Democrats will never let the death of a child go to waste. Democrats seem to love dead children, either through abortion or gun violence, because they don't like to let crises go to waste. Yes, you heard me right. Democrats love it when kids die so they can use the crisis for their agenda. Barack Obama started it after Newtown, and he rushed out after Newtown and demanded gun control, took what could have been a day of mourning for the families and turned it into an immediately divisive event, trying to divide Americans and isolate and ostracize people who oppose gun control. Instead of allowing people to meditate on the tragedy, if anything, Barack Obama, after Newtown, made it impossible for people to have rational conversations about gun control because he immediately made it divisive, which is what Joe Biden has done. Anytime a kid dies in this country, the Democrats either rush to take credit for killing the kid in abortion or they rush to enact some policy that they say would prevent it from happening. How would you prevent this from happening? This is a tragedy. This 15-year-old girl took her parents' handgun. No one's asking for a ban on handguns. No Democrat has come out and said handguns should be banned. So she takes a handgun that belongs to her father and kills people at the local high school. Democrats, please tell me what law would stop this. A 15-year-old isn't allowed a gun in this country anyway. So you took something for which no law could prevent it except the one thing you're not willing to recommend because you know it would be an electoral killer for you, and use it and the memory of the dead kids to advance an agenda and divide people. It is a disgusting level of bottom feeding the Democrats enjoy. They either want to kill kids in abortion or they want to use dead kids to advance an agenda, and they don't have the guts to come out and tell you what they really want, which is a ban on handguns. They don't have the guts to come out and call for it. Joe Biden's not calling for a ban on handguns. It would be unconstitutional, and not a single one of the Democratic leadership in this country is willing to put forward an amendment to the American Constitution to ban guns. None of them are willing to do it. This is Chris Murphy, who went on Morning Joe. Chris Murphy, just the other day, did a video on social media about the killing of Brian Thompson, the healthcare CEO. And he did the whole killing is wrong, but we have to talk about why people would do this in this country. Let's listen to him.
Police in Madison, Wisconsin are expected to give an update this afternoon on yesterday's deadly shooting at a private Christian school there. The shooter has been identified as a 15-year-old female student. A teacher and a student were shot and killed in a classroom during study hall. 6 other people were injured. Police say the shooter also died yesterday.
Now that's Willie, guys. Let's fast forward to Chris Murphy.
Following the school shooting massacre in Uvalde, Texas. It was the first significant piece of federal gun safety legislation in 30 years. The Senate, of course, began to push for those reforms back in 2012 after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Connecticut when he was a congressman representing that district. Senator, thanks for being with us. We noted earlier that the shooting yesterday in Madison took place 12 years after the Sandy Hook shooting. That terrible, terrible anniversary was on Saturday. Your thoughts here, the facts, the details change a bit. It's a young woman in this case. It's a handgun in this case, not an AR-style rifle. But if you look at the facts that we have right now, what more could be done here and can be done more broadly to stop these awful days?
Yeah, obviously, this is an awful time of year in Connecticut. Those families in Newtown are reliving that horror as we speak. Those empty seats at the holiday table are just devastating. And
the holiday table.
When I think about these school shootings, I think much more broadly than the number of people who are shot or killed. The reality is that our kids who are exposed to this violence, the kids who fear for their life when they walk to school in dangerous neighborhoods like the one that I live close to in Hartford, Connecticut, the kids who have gone through an active shooter incident like this one in Wisconsin, their lives are changed forever. I mean, we're losing a generation of kids because literally your brain chemistry changes when you are exposed to that level of violence.
He doesn't want to offer any solutions other than more gun control. This is a man who the other day got on television or on video on social media and said, we got to talk about all the other aspects of the killing of Brian Thompson that made it wrong but understandable. Democrats never want to have a conversation about mental health. This is a girl, and that's very notable because with the exception of Audrey Hale at the Covenant Christian School, and she was had trans issues. And by the way, notice we still don't actually have an official release of her manifesto, and yet all these other manifestos, they're willing to trot out pretty quickly, including Luigi Mangione. Why his and not hers? I think we know the answer. It's very notable that it's a girl, and based on initial reports, and I'm going to dance around this a little bit because nothing's been confirmed, but it does seem to be there. She had a very troubled family life, very, very troubled, fantasized about other mass killers, wanted to commit suicide, and decided in the process she'd take other people out with her. She got her parents' handgun. Chris Murphy wants us to understand all the reasons Luigi Mangione could be led to kill, but God forbid we have a conversation about mental health. No, it can only be about gun control in this country. And what legislation has Chris Murphy proposed that could have stopped this particular killing? Exactly nothing. Nothing at all. The Democrats see dead kids and they gleefully say, hey, we can do something here. We can pass more laws and take more control. But they don't actually want to do something that would stop anything. None of them are brave enough to support an amendment to the Constitution to repeal the Second Amendment. None of them are willing to do that. They want to pass an assault weapons ban, which would not have stopped this handgun from being used. They're gleeful about it, and that's the most depraved thing. They justify Luigi Mangione. They justify even the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and now they see this. They're like, hey, let's take advantage of this to pass our agenda. Not a single one of them cared about gun control when Brian Thompson was killed or Donald Trump was nearly killed. But here, hey, let's do gun control. It is very interesting, isn't it? People the Democrats don't like get killed. They're really quiet about gun control. The moment kids get killed, hey, let's take everybody's guns away, except we don't want to say that publicly. It's ghoulish. Yeah, Chris Murphy is absolutely right. This is the anniversary of Newtown, Connecticut. It's not holiday parties, Senators. Christmas parties around Connecticut and Hanukkah parties. You can say Christmas and Hanukkah. You're allowed. And there are children who will not be there. And now there are family members in Madison, Wisconsin who will not be around the Christmas table. And I guarantee you there are presents wrapped under trees for those people who are now dead. And I find it ghoulish and depraved that the Democrats rush every time something like this happens to immediately on the day of, while the blood is not even dried on the sidewalk, to demand that we do gun control. Can't let people mourn, immediately must start a political fight. They believe that starting the political fight immediately over this is because the Republicans never want to start the political fight. And so guess what? We never do have a political conversation about what's going on. Because if we did, we would have to have a conversation about mental health in this country instead of guns, because there's not a law that any Democrat is supporting that would have curtailed what happened in Madison, Wisconsin yesterday, or frankly, what happened in Newtown, given the facts of that situation and the shooter. They're horrible, horrible tragedies. Can the nation not mourn without Democrats immediately politicizing them? Apparently not. It's a ghoulish sickness on the Democratic Party side that everything must be politicized immediately. Even the death of the Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, his family wasn't even allowed time to mourn before Democrats wanted to go out and vilify him. I should have died, but what a horrible monster in charge of an insurance company. They never even let the family have a chance to mourn. They never let the families in Newtown have a chance to mourn. They never let the families at Parkland have a chance to mourn. They never let the families at Uvalde have a chance to mourn. They never let the families in Madison, Wisconsin have a chance to mourn. And you could say, well, maybe we've got to do something about these school shootings. Show me a law that would stop them. You know, Columbine, which really kicked off the chain of modern school shootings, was done after the assault weapons ban had been passed, and they used shotguns. There is not a law being advanced by Democrats to curb mass shootings in this country that would ban shotguns or handguns, just spooky-looking guns Democrats don't like. And they don't want to actually propose anything because they know they'd be voted out of office. Because the only way to really stop this, if you're not going to deal with the mental health issues and talk some Jesus into these people, which the Democrats certainly don't want to do, is to ban all guns. And the Democrats don't want to do that. So the three things that you actually could do to fix the situation, Democrats don't want to do. They just want a political option. It's like the whole reason they never decided to solve immigration in this country, because they would rather have all the immigrants pour into this country so they can try to get amnesty than actually solve the problem at the border. Democrats never want to solve the problems. They just like to use dead kids as props to advance policy agendas that they think will help them win elections without actually then implementing those policies.
Want to be on the show?
Hello. I love your show.
Call Eric now at 877-973-7425.
Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, remember, as you are traveling, if you text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you'll be able to get the podcast, the live stream. I will be here Tuesday for the annual Christmas show. We'll re-air it on Wednesday for Christmas. You won't have a guest host on Christmas Eve. I am taking some time off, though. It is that time of year. Remember the gangs, kind of important here, the Venezuelan gangs in Aurora, Colorado. When Donald Trump started calling attention to, and Fox News and others called attention to, the Venezuelan gang in Aurora, Colorado, remember local Democrats said, yeah, it's not really a problem. No, it's not a thing. And Republicans started saying around the country, yeah, actually, it is a thing. In fact, I got a friend of mine who works closely with the DEA who says it's a thing in Gwinnett County here in Georgia outside of Atlanta. This Venezuelan gang is very violent. They've spread to other parts of the country. Well, that particular apartment complex in Colorado got a lot of attention on the right, and people on the left were rushing during the election to say, no, it's not real. It's not real. Well, let me play you this from Fox News. It kind of speaks for itself.
Okay, Aurora, Colorado now. This is a live look now. The sun is up there in that state, and police have now detained 14 people and reported armed home invasion. That's the same apartment complex where a lot of people were complaining about the armed Venezuelan gang members roaming the halls. Reports indicate that investigators said that several suspects entered the apartment and had two people inside. The suspects then reportedly moved the victims to another apartment complex, or rather another unit on the property, where police said they were found threatened and bound. An adult man sustained a non-life-threatening stab wound. At the moment, police say it's unclear if the suspects are connected to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, but we'll get a live report in Colorado 30 minutes away and bring you the latest.
Spoiler alert, they were connected. After all the denials from all the people on the left and reporters in Colorado and government officials in Colorado before the election, no, it's not really a thing. Turns out it really is. It really is. Now, you know what else is their thing is Americans for Prosperity, and they'd love to have you on their side for this election, or for after the election, rebuilding America, helping advance the Trump agenda and common sense conservative reforms. All you got to do to play a part in it is to go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Sign up with them today, and you'll be able to be part of a big movement in this country to advance common sense conservative reforms across the nation. They fight for school choice. They fight for families. They fight for small businesses. They fight for common sense solutions to the border and what to do with all the illegal immigrants already here. They fight for common sense crime solutions as well. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go sign up with them today. You'll be the smartest person in your circle of friends. You'll be the most informed advocate for freedom among all the freedom fighters in your circle of friends. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Sign up with AFP today. Join me with this great organization as we fight nationally for freedom. Welcome back. It's Erick Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you with me. Just stand by. I got a lot of stuff I need to talk about, particularly right now. So, if you will recall, someone leaked Donald Trump's tax records to, I think it was ProPublica, other media outlets, funneled through a left-wing group. Someone had direct access to Donald Trump's records. It turns out it was a man named Charles Littlejohn. The story got published in ProPublica and the New York Times in 2020 and 2021, containing data on returns from billionaires, including Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, and Donald Trump. The leaked returns were traced to Charles Littlejohn, who took a sweetheart deal with the IRS, by the way, guilty of disclosure of thousands of tax records without authorization, and only 5 years in prison. That's it, just 5 years. And the media was able to run stories on Donald Trump, who apparently was a primary target, as well as others. So I got home yesterday from the office, had a letter from the IRS. It turns out that Charles Littlejohn stole my tax records too and leaked them to left-wing groups. It wasn't just Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos and Michael Bloomberg. It was little old me as well. My tax returns were clearly not enough to be salacious, although when I started my website, the Resurgent, after I left Red State, a major conservative donor advanced the funds to be able to build the website and became a partner with me in my LLC. And I'm sure it was more to target him than me. The story never went anywhere, but then even as I've grown my radio show and stuff, this guy was leaking my tax returns to left-wing groups. And the media decided to play down the story and play down the significance of what actually happened. And this is why it's so significant, is that the IRS and the Department of Justice decided to go after this guy and only sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Charles Littlejohn is 38 years old, lives in Washington, D.C., worked as an outside contractor for an outside group. This is from the Department of Justice. According to court documents, Littlejohn, while working at the IRS as a government contractor, stole tax return information associated with high-ranking government officials. Littlejohn accessed tax returns associated with a public official A, that would be Donald Trump, on an IRS database after using broad search parameters designed to conceal the true purpose of his queries. He then uploaded the tax returns to a private website in order to avoid IRS protocols established to detect and prevent large downloads or uploads from IRS devices and systems. Littlejohn then saved the tax returns to multiple personal storage devices, including an iPod, before contacting news organization One. Between around August 2019 and October 2019, Littlejohn provided the news organization with the tax return information associated with the public official. Littlejohn subsequently stole additional tax return information related to the public official and provided it to the news organization. Beginning in September 2020, the news organization published a series of articles about the public official's tax returns using tax return information obtained from Littlejohn. In July and August of 2020, Littlejohn separately stole tax return information for thousands of the nation's wealthiest individuals. Littlejohn was again able to evade detection by uploading the tax return information to a private website. In November of 2020, Littlejohn disclosed this tax return information to news organization Two. The first one would be the New York Times, probably the second one ProPublica, which published nearly 50 articles using the stolen data. Littlejohn pleaded guilty. Littlejohn pled guilty, but he could have gone to jail for a much longer sentence. The IRS went easy on him. The IRS cut a deal. And that's probably something that needs to be noted. This is from Ruben A. Viona, who writes at Tax Notes. On May 1st of 2024, Charles Littlejohn began serving a 5-year prison sentence for unauthorized disclosure of tax information. As anyone follows the case would know, the public official was Donald Trump, and the news organization was the New York Times and ProPublica, which published tax return information for Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, among others. Littlejohn performed a public service. A presidential tax return contains highly relevant information to the voting public. As for the super rich, information about how little tax they pay is even more important because it reveals the deep flaws of the income tax system. Under current law, disclosing tax returns is a crime, and he pled guilty. Under sentencing guidelines, his maximum sentence would be 10 years, but the District of Columbia judge sentenced him to 5 years, or 6 times the maximum sentence, on the grounds that others must be deterred from doing the same thing. However, what's so interesting here is this is someone who says essentially we need exposure of all of these things and we need documentation of all these things. But actually, you talk to a lot of people involved and a lot of tax attorneys involved. They're like, actually, he should have been sentenced to a whole lot longer than this. The left claims he was punished too harshly. The reality is you need maximum deterrence. And that maximum deterrence means Littlejohn should have been sentenced to a whole lot longer in prison. And by the way, charged with a whole lot more than he was charged. That's a part of the problem here as well. It's just wild to me that I get this letter from the government yesterday informing me in 2024 that sometime between 2017 and 2021, my records were leaked. Why was I only notified now in 2024? And I'm not alone. Thousands of Americans had their information leaked. Thousands of Americans had their information leaked. The left weaponizes this stuff. Now, I say all this because I want to bring your attention to a conversation with Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn. And Reid Hoffman is a major Democratic donor. Major Kamala Harris supporter. And I want to play you part of this conversation Reid Hoffman had in an interview with the British personality. Just listen to part of this conversation.
I've been called evil by a number of people on the left. Really? Yes, of course. Look, they are wrong that is a necessary correlation, right? But I try to understand people. I understand their perspective. I disagree with it, but I understand it.
You're one of the few people that's still a billionaire and on the left, it seems.
No, I'm not. I actually
in the Valley, especially this election cycle.
Well,
it's the public-facing people that we see on the podcasts and stuff. And
look, so part of the reason why I think less people were public about it this cycle was because, President Trump was threatening, personal and political retaliation. Mm-hmm. And so you had to have a certain degree of courage to stand up.
You got that? Donald Trump was threatening personal and political retaliation. The left has weaponized the IRS against its opponents for a long time. And they'll say, well, Richard Nixon started it. Yeah, but you kept it going, whether he started it or not. The left targeted Tea Party activists when Barack Obama was president. Remember, what's her name at the IRS, Lois Lerner at the IRS, targeted Tea Party groups, wouldn't give them tax exempt status, wanted to investigate them. When Bill Clinton was president, coincidentally, every single woman who accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault got audited by the IRS. Remember, they went after Paula Jones, and it's just a coincidence. I had no idea she would be targeted. They did it with Tea Party groups, and we know from the Inspector General at the time that the Democrats targeted them specifically. They've gone after conservative groups repeatedly. Rush Limbaugh got audited numerous times when Clinton was president, when Obama was president. A lot of conservative groups did, a lot of major conservatives did. It's no coincidence. So a left-wing activist goes into the IRS working with an outside group as a contractor and intentionally and willfully decides to release the private tax information of individual Americans. And he only got 5 years. That's not really deterrence. The left is zealous for this cause. The left desires to expose people. The left desires to take on this issue. That's no deterrence. And here's the thing. When you begin to weaponize the IRS to go after your enemies like this, one, your complaints about what the other side might do fall on deaf ears. Two, probably does incentivize the other side doing something similar. And three, destroys trust in the IRS and the tax system of this country. You may not like billionaires paying taxes, but you know what? Those billionaires who don't pay as much in taxes as you, so to speak, percentage-wise, maybe they don't, but they're still paying a lot more in taxes than you and me. Paying a lot more in taxes. And when they don't trust that the system is fair, when they don't trust that the system is secure, they're going to start paying lawyers to find more ways to get around taxes. It undermines the whole system. And the left can't seem to wrap their minds around this. They think these billionaires are going to pay more taxes. You know what? They're not going to. They're not going to. What they're going to do is they're going to either move to a different country with a different tax system, or they're going to hire their lawyers to shelter more income and find ways around the income tax system. You got to have a tax system that works, and increasingly ours is too complex to work. But beyond the complexity of our system, it's the doubts that the system is being fair to people. And when you have left-wing activists agitating to leak the tax information of those they don't like and weaponize it in friendly left-wing media outlets like the New York Times and ProPublica, you begin to degrade the system and sow distrust in the system. I was a victim of Charles Littlejohn. Donald Trump was a victim of Charles Littlejohn. Multiple other people were victims of Charles Littlejohn. He was heralded as a hero, and he was not severely punished by the government, despite the left-wing activists who don't like our tax system saying he was. No, he should be in jail for a much longer time. But the IRS reduced the number of charges. They could have given him counts for all the people whose tax information he leaked. They didn't. He could be in prison for a very long time, and they chose not to because he did for them a useful service to undermine the tax code. The left rewards people even when they purportedly are punishing them for undermining those things that they want to undermine to advance their agenda. In this case, it was the tax code because they think billionaires aren't paying their fair share. And they also wanted to try to ruin Donald Trump. How many other people, and this is the thing that annoys me the most, it is December 17th, 2024 today. Yesterday, December 16th, 2024. Only now am I finding out from the IRS that I was a victim of Charles Littlejohn. It's absurd it took them that long. Now, while all this is going on and you've got all sorts of distrust in government and with banks out there, Swiss America has been warning you about the secret war on cash put on by the same government that didn't want to tell me about my taxes being leaked. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. They've been warning people about the secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from this war on cash, you got to get their free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they can educate you on protecting your assets. Their report takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save you on your retirement and finances. If you want a free copy of it, you call or text 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency. It is spreading. It is the government trying to monitor what you're spending, even using cash. So get the free report, completely free. Just mention my name, Erick, E-R-I-C-K, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The report is completely free. Let Swiss America educate you on the secret war on cash. 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.
When the world seems crazy, he'll keep you sane. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If your business is growing and you find yourself needing access to capital, reach out to them. They might be able to help you. They make their own decisions. FirstLibertyGA.com. Tell them I sent you. Take 10 minutes with them. See if they're fit for you and you for them. FirstLibertyGA.com. All right. To the phones I go. Arthur, you're going to be up first. Welcome to the show. How are you? No, generally not in this country because of the First Amendment. Unless we can prove direct culpability, and in this case we couldn't. Just based on his information, he obtained the documents, and only after obtaining the documents reached out to them. They didn't have to question where he got them from, and so they were able to. Oh, yeah, but there's actually court precedent in this country at the Supreme Court level that if the media reveals information that was illegally gotten, they're still allowed to do so. This goes back to the Pentagon Papers when the guy at the Pentagon leaked classified information to the New York Times, and the Nixon administration sued to stop it. And the Supreme Court said you can't sue a newspaper. Now, there's some quibbling there because you can sue for damages after the fact if they do this, but public officials and rich people tend to not be able to do that because there's got to be a level of malice involved. And they were just printing truthful information that may have been ill-gotten, but it wasn't ill-gotten by them. That's part of the problem. That one of the things Donald Trump wants changed in this country is the laws related to this, that the news media can be punished. And, in other Western countries that don't have a First Amendment, the news media could have been punished, but not in this country. It's kind of wild to see members of the media being so angry with ABC News for paying $15 million to Donald Trump, saying we got to do something about this. Well, if we went with what Europe does, ABC News could have been taken off the air. George Stephanopoulos could have been ruined for doing what he did. It's wild the media is not thinking about this. They're so emotional when it comes to Donald Trump. He has broken so much of the media, and they're just flat out emotional about what's actually going on. The other thing the media has been emotional about is Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. They cannot understand how a free market libertarian with wild hair could get elected down there. They cannot understand his demand that government get out of the economy, that it would work, and turns out it has worked massively. Argentina is officially, according to the Financial Times, out of its recession. The economy is expected to grow 5%, which, given the massive decline, it'll only amount to about a 2 to 3% growth in the economy overall this year. But it's actually impressive, very impressive what Milei has done in Argentina. When we come back, I actually want to tie that into something domestically. The government has decided that every seat in your car must have a seatbelt sensor that must ring a chime if there is no seatbelt. If it detects weight in the chair, but no one's in it, it's got to ring the chime. And all this is doing is driving up the costs for poor people so that they can't actually have a car. And there's no legislated mandate for this. It's the bureaucrats and the regulators driving up people's costs, hurting the economy. Something we should learn from Milei you don't want to do. We'll discuss it when we get back. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome across America. It's Erick Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, I guess we can say we're the fastest growing news talk program in America, literally gaining 100% new affiliates. This coming year, we're keeping the old ones, but adding to them. We'll be, when we close out the year, over 55 affiliates. We're just picking up some more today. I just got told for January in California and Oregon and elsewhere around the country, Anchorage, Alaska, across the state of Mississippi, up in New York State as well. Lots of stations coming on board. Now, the phone number, 877-973-7425. I gotta go with a pet peeve here. It is relevant. Just bear with me here. Here's my pet peeve. Republicans in Georgia passed a law a number of years ago that has increased car accidents and deaths. They did it for the children. It's always for the children. Everything every regulator does, all big government does, is they do it for the children. In Georgia, they decided to put speed cameras in front of schools. And I realize some of you are like, oh, it's for the children. Oh, you have to do it. Oh, it saves lives. So a woman near me was killed a couple of weeks ago because she was at an intersection where railroad tracks cross and a train was coming, and there was so much traffic she couldn't move, and the train hit her. She was a senior citizen, and she died. And the local newspaper says for some reason, traffic in that area is up 5-fold increase from a year before. I can tell you exactly, as someone who goes through that area, why traffic is up 5-fold. It's because they put in speed cameras at one of the local private schools where you can't even, the school has no sidewalk. Just so you understand this, this particular private school has no sidewalk in front of it. You can't actually see the buildings where the kids are in school. You see their soccer field and their baseball field. You don't see the school. You got to go on a side street down a road to get to the school. Doesn't matter. They justified it in this location, even though there's no sidewalks, kids are not dropped off there. They did it for the children, and now this woman's dead because she's at a railroad crossing and she can't get out of the way when the train is coming because there's been a 5-fold increase in traffic because people are going a different way to avoid those cameras. Now, why are they avoiding the cameras? You know how in the mornings and the afternoons you have the little yellow flashing speed light signs to slow you down? You would think that's when the cameras are working. No. The way they wrote the law, even when those lights aren't flashing during the day, the cameras could still be on and give you a ticket. And people don't know. And so they're just avoiding it. They don't know if they're going to get a speeding ticket or not, because here's the thing. If the speed limit sign is 35 miles an hour and you go the speed limit, you're going the speed limit, and the cameras are on depending on where you're going, you could still get a speeding ticket. If it thinks the school zone's in effect, even though the lights aren't flashing, you're going to get a ticket. It's a garbage scam, and their lobbyists, I guarantee you, reaching for their phones to call in right now. Spare me. We've had the lobbyists in charge. In fact, had one of them call one time. Well, actually, we got to keep the children safe. We were keeping the children safe before your damn obnoxious cameras were there. Now you're getting people killed all over the place because of these cameras all over the place. Nobody knows, so they're altering their traffic patterns because of the stupid cameras. By the way, for the record, I should say I've never gotten a ticket for one of these. I'm one of the people who altered my route, and I typically don't speed through a school zone anyway. But what's so wild about it is we're doing it for the children. You can't even see the school from the road, and there's no sidewalk where you're putting these cameras up. Well, the DOT did a study. Oh, my foot. I know how those studies operate. Now some woman's dead because of the increase in traffic. She couldn't get out of the way, but they did it for the children. What's one more senior citizen when we've saved a child who's never going to get hit at a school zone? And what's actually happening is if you talk privately to the politicians, every last one of them will concede. It actually has nothing to do with the children. That's just for the idiots out there. Like those of you right now who are saying it's for the children. You're actually one of the rubes that the politicians are laughing about. You've made it easy for them. They'll tell you privately, it's a revenue driver. They don't have to raise taxes now and get the voters mad at them. They just put up the speed cameras, and they raise revenue. All it's done is altered people's behaviors. Now, I start with my pet peeve here, and Republicans in Georgia should change the law. Literally, people are getting killed in car wrecks now because of your stupid speed cameras. You decided the former speaker's, I guess, relative was a lobbyist, and you sneaked it in the last minute of the legislative session when no one was looking several years ago. It was really scammy how they put it in as well. And the Republicans won't get away with it. They won't change it now because the lobbyists keep throwing cash at them to keep killing people in car wrecks who are trying to avoid speed light cameras that shouldn't be giving them tickets, but they are. And as an aside, I know multiple people who have gotten tickets on holidays, and you know what they have to do? They got to write a letter and say school wasn't in effect that day. Literally had this happen to a buddy of mine a couple of weeks ago. School was out of session because it was Thanksgiving week, and he got a ticket, and the school wasn't even in session. And the law says you're not supposed to get a ticket. And so he's got to write a letter to the company that gave him the ticket and say school wasn't in session that day. It's you put the burden on the taxpayers and the citizens so that you can scam them out of money. Yes, it makes my blood pressure boil. See, here's why I philosophically hate these cameras. It's because it allows the government to abdicate their personal law enforcement responsibility to a level of automation that you can't actually ensure doesn't do anything other than tax the poor. And ultimately, what all the good Republicans in the state did is they passed a law that authorizes taxing the poor because the rich person with time on their hands is smart enough to write the letter, but the poor person who works 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet and got the speeding ticket doesn't have time to write the same letter, and they're going to get stuck with the fine. You've taxed poor people. And when the Republicans have just been taken over by the working class, they should be the ones opposed to these automated cameras outside schools that don't even need them. Now, this gets me to the other issue. The regulators doing this, they're driving up costs to alter people's behavior. One of the things that President Milei discovered in Argentina as an economist to get rid of the recession they were in was to drive down regulatory costs and to get rid of regulations and to get rid of regulators. He would have gotten rid of the speed light cameras in Argentina because it's just a burden on people. Concurrent to him realizing you've got to reduce the number of regulations. Concurrent to that, one of the things that our bureaucrats in this country are doing, in addition to putting speed cameras in places to tax the poor without actually raising taxes, is they're adding all sorts of safety features to vehicles now that don't need to be there. Federal regulators have just announced they're now going to require that every new car made in this country have a sensor on every seat in the car that rings the seatbelt alarm. Every single seat in the car will have one. So if you have stuff on your back seat that triggers the sensor, you're going to have to buckle the seatbelt even though there's no one back there. And it's just another cost to a car. And what they say, just like the people who put in the cameras, is, oh, we're doing it for the children. We're doing it for the children. You're not doing it for the children. What you're actually doing it for is to price poor people out of the market for cars. That's exactly what it is. It's a backdoor way to price people out. And this is the thing that infuriates me. Same with the cameras. They don't want to be honest and say it's a way of raising money for school systems without raising taxes. They don't want to be honest with these regulations in cars and say it's a way to tax poor people out of getting in a car. Think about all the stuff cars have to have. They got to have the camera for rear view backing up. They got to have the airbags and the seat belts for the drivers and the front passenger, which is fine. But now you got to have those sensors. You've also, for fuel economy sakes, you got to have the tire sensors. All of these little things add up. What Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy should do with Doge is they should get a law passed that says every car manufacturer in this country can produce at least one vehicle and only require anti-lock brakes, the seatbelt, and the airbag, the seatbelt for the driver. because all of these little things that you have to have are just driving up the cost for the poor. And that's actually the point. The regulators don't want to tell you. The regulators don't want to admit this is about curbing your ability to buy a car. They say it's for the children, like the speed cameras. It's for the children. And really, it's not. It's to force you to change your behaviors. It's to force the cost of doing business to go up so you can't afford to get into a car. And the less cars they have, without ever having prohibited you from buying a car, they've got poor people on public transportation now because they're saving the environment. And all they're doing is they're punishing Americans. There are lots of reasons that the price of cars are up now. The price of the raw materials are up and everything else. But when you start adding in the sensors, and let's not forget the breathalyzer that's coming to cars soon, it prices even the middle class out of a reasonable car option. And then what happens is they have to go to used cars. And then the used car prices also go up because the demand is so high for the used cars. It screws up the entire market every time the government adds this bit of regulation. Mike Lee in the Senate and Chip Roy in the House, God bless them, they're suggesting that after the Looper Bright decision, where the regulators can't freely interpret these laws anymore, that it might be time to sue to get rid of some of these mandates, because Congress did not mandate that every seat in the car needs a seatbelt sensor. Congress didn't do that. Congress didn't do it. And yet they're driving up the cost of doing business. It's a real problem. It's like the regulators and the bureaucrats and the Republicans in my state and the local school boards putting up these speed cameras. It was never about saving the children. That's just the talking point. No children have been saved by having these cameras, but people are being killed in car wrecks as the traffic patterns get altered for people to avoid accidentally getting a ticket when they're driving the speed limit, but the speed camera says actually you're supposed to be driving slower than the posted speed limit right now. It's a mess. Milei in Argentina has discovered that if you get rid of the regulations, the economy grows. Our Congress, led by Republicans coming up, needs to do a really good job of looking at the regulators and the regulations, particularly when it comes to the automotive industry in this country. They've driven up the price of a car, and they've forced poor people into doing public transportation. When in the past they could have had a car. Now they can't have the car. They got to go to public transportation. The public transportation doesn't serve them as well. They can't get themselves to work on time. They're dependent on a bus and a bus driver somewhere. The bus may or may not be late, and it impacts their ability to do their job. It's all part of government regulation. And time again, what that regulation is for is to drive up the costs of people doing business, to force them to curb their behaviors, overwhelmingly to save the environment. Overwhelmingly to save the environment. It has nothing to do with saving you. It has nothing to do with saving your life. It has everything to do with getting you out of your vehicle. It's a shame. It's a shame. Now, I got to say something here at the end. Gotten a couple of people talking about the lady who died at the crossing, saying it was her fault. It was her fault. You know, it was her fault. She was too close. That intersection, however, you're basically, when you're stopped at a stoplight, you're on the railroad crossing. She couldn't back up because there was so much traffic behind her. Yep, she shouldn't have been on the railroad tracks. I think we can all acknowledge that. She played a direct role. It's a terrible tragedy. She was on this railroad crossing, but she couldn't get out of the way of the arm, and she couldn't back up because of all the traffic behind her to be able to get out of the way. And if you actually read the news stories about it, and not just the urban gossip about it, one of the major reasons is because the massive amount of traffic that's now on that road. The massive amount of traffic that's now on that road is directly linked to the school cameras at the school, where you can't even see the school, and there is no sidewalk, and there are no children that are ever walking there, but they said they did it for the children. And the result is a backup in traffic elsewhere, and this poor lady got on the railroad tracks, shouldn't have been on the railroad tracks, but then when the train started coming and the arm went down, she couldn't back up because of all the traffic behind her. Traffic that used to not exist at that time of day until they put up the speed light cameras. It's a shame. It's a tragedy. Yes, she played a role in it, but let's not also forget that the entire traffic pattern changed because Republicans allowed local school boards to do a backdoor tax on poor people, claiming it was for children, and it wasn't. It never was for children. It was always for more revenue without having to actually raise taxes and get blamed by the voters.
He'll do the research and give it to you straight. Erick Erickson is live every weekday.
Hello there. Welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. This is kind of funny. There is some breaking news happening now. The President of the United States has pressured the archivist of the United States, Dr. Colleen Shogan, the very first woman to hold the position, to publish the Equal Rights Amendment. Why? Now, this is a very distinct legal issue here. Enough states have passed the Equal Rights Amendment that it should be a constitutional amendment, except for a provision in the legislation authorizing it that required it to be adopted within 10 years of its passage in Congress, which never happened. So the archivist of the United States has released a statement, quote, as archivist and the deputy archivist involved of the United States, it's our responsibility to uphold the integrity of the constitutional amendment process and ensure that changes to the Constitution are carried out in accordance with the law. At this time, the Equal Rights Amendment cannot be certified as part of the Constitution due to established legal, judicial, and procedural decisions. In 2020 and again in 2022, the Office of Legal Counsel of the U.S. Department of Justice affirmed that the ratification deadline established by the Congress for the ERA is valid and enforceable. The role of the archivist of the United States is to follow the law as it stands, ensuring the integrity of our nation's governing institutions. Personal opinions or beliefs are not relevant. As the leaders of the National Archives, we support established legal precedents and decisions and continue to serve with transparency and integrity. That's from the National Archivist. Why? Because the President of the United States has ordered the archivist to publish the Equal Rights Amendment as part of the Constitution, even though it's not. Is it that authoritarian? Is it that totalitarian? And is it the system working? Yeah. Now, before we move on, I got to tell you about my bank, Old Glory Bank. I hope you might consider doing business with Old Glory Bank. They would love to have your business. If you go to oldglorybank.com today, if you're buying a building or what, wrong, nope, sorry, confusion, sorry. If you've got a business and you need a bank account, or you're an individual and you need a bank account, Old Glory Bank can be your bank. They can do no fee checking and savings for you as an individual. They've got great business account setups. They also have great interest rates on their savings account, their CDs. They do mortgages, they do car loans, home equity lines of credit, everything you need. They're a real bank. They'd love to be your bank. By conservatives, for conservatives, you never have to worry about your bank canceling your bank account if you use Old Glory Bank. Go to oldglorybank.com. Oldglorybank.com. It is my bank. It can be your bank. Oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. And I did the wrong one, so I'm swapping things around. Ladies and gentlemen of the United States, you may not know this because of the way we cover news in this country, but today is actually election day. And I know you're thinking, I haven't been to vote. Well, because you're not involved. Today is the day the Electoral College meets, and I have breaking news for you. Donald Trump has been elected president of the United States by the Electoral College. Enough votes have been cast in the Electoral College now that Donald Trump will be president-elect of the United States of America. I know you think it's all about you and November's election day, but all you did in November was elect members of the Electoral College. And they themselves got together today in their respective state capitals and cast their votes for president of the United States, and they're the ones who matter. And so today, as of now, voting's still going to be happening several more hours as we move across the country. And well, Donald Trump now has enough votes in the Electoral College to be president of the United States, making it official short of certification when we get to January. Never say I don't cover the breaking news. It's big breaking news here. It is the election. And back in the day before I started voting, when I was young, all the ballots in every state in the country listed the Electoral College members you were voting for with headlines like Reagan, Mondale, whatever, in their list of Electoral College. Nowadays, every state skips that step and just puts who are you voting for, Harris or Trump. But actually, you're not voting for Harris or Trump. You're voting for members of the Electoral College, and they're the ones who matter. And today they voted, and there will be enough votes for Donald Trump to be president of the United States. Now, we got other stuff to go to. I got to spend one more day on the drones. I know some of you are obsessed with the drones. So in the past 24 hours, I have heard that there is actually a nuclear weapon on the loose in the Northeast. I have heard that it is aliens. I have heard that it is demons. I have heard it's the Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese, the Canadians, the Mexican drug lords, you name it. It is multifaceted. The other night, there was a lot of cloud cover in New Jersey, and the drone sightings collapsed, which means the drones are flying above cloud level. They're not flying at 500 feet. But beyond that, there's another issue. And that issue is that in the state of New Jersey, a hospital has reported nuclear material missing. This is from Fox 5 New York. According to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, radioactive material went missing on December 2nd. It was a shipment. The shipment arrived at its destination. The container was damaged and is empty. Mayor Melman was on Good Day New York from Bellevue, New Jersey. He doesn't know for sure that the drones are looking for radioactive material, but says that is likely what some of them are for. The United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission reported radioactive material lost in transit to Newfield, New Jersey on December 3rd. The material was approximately 0.267, what is MCI? Now I got to go down the rabbit hole. MCI measurement unit. It is a millicurie. Oh, okay. So it's nothing significant. 0.267 millicurie of activity was shipped for disposal, but did not arrive intact. The shipping container arrived at its destination damaged and empty. The licensee filed a claim with the shipper. If the source is not located within 30 days, the licensee will follow up. What kind of actual nuclear material was it? Well, nuclear material not enough to cause any permanent injury, could cause potential harm if mishandled. It's a small amount of nuclear material that was being sent for disposal from a hospital's radiology laboratory. Not enough to build a dirty bomb, not enough to build a nuclear weapon. It was enough for a hospital, and it's gone missing. But remember what I told you yesterday. There are nuclear detectors in New York City that are so sensitive that after someone's been to the hospital and gotten radiation treatment, they can trigger those things. So some of the drones do appear to be searching for radioactive material. They've been doing test runs on these sorts of drones for a while. This is a live exercise to find it. Now, the other drones that seem to be out there are from what I told you about yesterday. There's a big pilot program for a drone manufacturing facility in New Jersey, and they're flying the drones from New Jersey through Pennsylvania into Delaware. And they've gotten clearance and permission by the government to be able to do it. And they said last year in their press release that this, at the end of 2024, is when they were going to start. Into 2024. So here we are, the end of 2024. The press release said they'd be starting. So we got drones in the sky looking for some radioactive material. We got drones in the sky going place to place. And in Virginia, we do have the Chinese and Iranians. Here's the thing that sets them apart, and pay attention to this, please. The Chinese and the Iranian drones are running without lights on. They don't want you to see them. They don't want to be detected. They're not running with all of the lights on for flight patterns. Why would they? John Kirby was on CNN and had this exchange.
Taking a big left turn here, and something else under your purview right now, John, I want to ask you more about this drone mystery that has continued. You say that currently these drones do not pose any sort of threat. The way I heard you say it is you assess their commercial, lawful drones, law enforcement drones, hobbyist drones is what people are seeing. Nothing anomalous, no criminal activity detected yet. The mayor of Montville, New Jersey, was just on with us, and he essentially says he does not believe that. Let me play this for you.
If someone is making a really bad decision by not coming clean and say that these are our drones, we're doing some sort of an operation, nothing to see here, they are safe.
And what the mayor's talking about is these are our drones. Is he saying these are government drones? He is not happy with the response that he's been essentially getting from you guys. What do you say?
Well, I would repeat what we've said yesterday and last night in a multiple agency statement, that we have taken a serious look at this. We have gone through 5,000 some odd sightings. We have added detection capabilities to the region. We've even sent up visual observers. And everything we're seeing to date, our assessment tells us that these are commercial drones, hobbyist drones, or law enforcement drones, all operating legally and lawfully. I mean, when people shoot video of that, Kate, I mean, you're seeing the lights on these things, the navigation lights. That's what's required if you're going to be flying in U.S. airspace at night, are navigation lights. So clearly they're being operated in a lawful and legal way, and we've seen nothing from their behavior, nothing that tells us there's a public safety threat or a national security threat. I do want to add one point, though. We still got about 100 leads that the FBI is following up on. And if we learn something that contradicts that, or something more, something additional, something more specific, my goodness, we're going to come public and we're going to talk about it. We have been trying to be as transparent with the American people as we can. But I think it's also important to remember that there are 1 million drones registered with the FAA, and thousands upon thousands fly in U.S. airspace legally every single day.
He sounds annoyed. John Kirby sounds like he's had enough of the drone talk. He's ready to get out of the White House. He's like the only competent person in the administration. Sure, he's a political hatchet job guy for the left. People on the right don't like. He's the only competent guy in the White House, and he seems pretty annoyed. If you listen to the statements from Mayorkas and from Kirby over the last couple of days, whether you like them or not, they're all but saying people have overreacted. Yes, there are drones. Yes, there are government drones. But yes, a lot of them are private drones. And also, a whole lot of the sightings are aircraft, like planes and helicopters. People are beside themselves. People just get worked up about stuff. There is a history of social contagions in this country. Remember going back to what was it, the 15 and 1600s, the dancing social contagion in Europe, where people couldn't stop dancing until they fell over dead. You got people in a mass panic. And look, that's not to undermine the fact that, yes, there are drones. But one of the wildest things is on the social media frenzy these days, they're like, there's a stray nuke. Someone has a nuke. They're looking for a nuke. Okay, it does appear some of the drones, not all the drones, are looking for this biomedical waste that is radioactive. But just follow with me here. For those of you who are convinced there's a dirty bomb somewhere in the Northeast Corridor, the other day was the Army-Navy game. The President-elect and Vice President-elect of the United States were there. Leading members of Congress were there. Supreme Court justices were there. Members of the current president's cabinet were there. There is no way on God's earth the government would allow all of those people to be present in one location if they were worried about a dirty bomb somewhere on the eastern seaboard, let alone in the mid-Atlantic and north. They wouldn't do it. Some people just want to believe it. And here's, it's like, I got people who are really mad at me for being dismissive of the idea that Michelle Obama was going to be the Democratic nominee, because they listened to some podcast or they watched some show, and that person was absolutely convinced that it was going to be Michelle Obama. And I was like, it's not going to be Michelle Obama. Here's what I know. She doesn't like this. She doesn't want to be back in the White House. She didn't like it when she was there. She doesn't want to be president. She doesn't want to run for office. She don't want to do any of these things. But no. Some dude on some social media channel insisted you was going to be Michelle Obama. Therefore, I'm wrong. Same thing now. There's got to be a dirty bomb because some conspiracy theorist on the internet says so. And those of us who say there is no dirty bomb, we're wrong. And the proof is, well, of course, they put all those members of Congress there because they were hoping to explode the dirty bomb so Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could stay in office. Except the bomb didn't explode. So where is it? It's not there. I cannot take crazy off the internet. I'm sorry. It is wild to me, the wild conspiracy theories people want to believe. And then they tell you that you're some sort of a pawn for the one world government. No, you idiots who believe the wildest things are the pawn for the one world government, because nobody's going to believe you, even if you're right, because you're so insane. The fact of the matter is, China, Russia, and Iran would not respect our air corridors, let alone the light laws on drones, which all of these drones do. So it's not demons, and it's not aliens, and it's not our enemies. It's Americans, and a lot of them are airplanes and helicopters, and people would rather believe wild conspiracy theories than the truth, because the conspiracy theory is always more titillating, isn't it? It's always sexier to believe the conspiracy theory. We can make the very complex very simple, and we can make the very simple very complex with just a conspiracy theory. All we need are people to believe. The reality is, rarely is anything as sexy as you make it out to be, particularly when it comes to stuff like this. It's just people are panicked now. We have a social contagion. People are seeing things that are not there. People are seeing things they don't understand. And people are seeing things that they've got limited information on. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. That is, the less you know about something, the more sure you are of what you know. The more you know about a topic, the less sure you are about anything related to that topic. A lot of people who don't know a whole lot are very convinced of what they've seen, and they won't be dissuaded from it. But again, many of these same people thought Michelle Obama was going to be president of the United States. And how did that go? Now speaking of going, to visioncomputers.com. Let them build you a computer. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. You're going to save some money. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. You go to Vision Computers, they can build you a computer, they can save you money, and then you get their 5-star tech support. So if you ever have a question about your computer, you call this number. It's a special number. I can't give it to you on the phone, but I have it because I'm a Vision Computer customer. You call this number, 15 seconds or less, they answer the phone. They don't put you on hold. You tell them what's going on. They can even remote in if they need to and take care of you and your computer. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Now, if you want a new computer from them, they can set it up exactly like your old computer, so you get the brand new stuff, the faster, better machine, but you got all your documents, your settings, your apps, all that stuff on there. All you have to do is go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE. If you're a business, you can get their tech support for your existing computers as well. $179 a year. If you're an individual, you can get their tech support for your existing computer. You don't even have to have bought a computer from Vision Computers to get it. Just $179 a year. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com.
You're listening to the Erick Erickson Show, the perfect blend of news, analysis, opinion, and cooking.
Let's go back to the phones here. Robert's been waiting on the drone issue. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you? Great. What's going on? No. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, and that it should, and the technology park last year issuing the statement, maybe they should reissue it that, hey, it's starting at the end of 2024. We're going to be using a flight path through New Jersey to test drones for the government. But yeah, man, I got to be honest with you, Robert. When you said Drotum at first, I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a joke about male anatomy at some point? I'm really glad it didn't go there, but this is, and I'm glad you said it because somebody had mentioned it to me the other day that it was the noticed airman thing, though. They didn't use Drotum. So I'm glad you called it that. But yeah, that that could have gone south. Thanks very much for the phone call, man. It is. Right. That's useful to know. Look, I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you. All right, folks. Speaking of Christmas, you got Omaha Steaks is coming up with their Christmas deal, 50% off site wide right now at Omaha Steaks. They would love to have you as a customer. So not only do you get 50% off site wide, but at checkout, you're going to get $30 more off at Omaha Steaks. All you have to do is when you go to checkout, put in Erick, Erick, as your promo code at checkout. You're going to get an additional $30 off beyond already 50% savings on the site. Now, I know the website can overwhelm you because it overwhelms me. Why? They have so much incredible stuff at Omaha Steaks. And again, it's all 50% off. So if you go to omahasteaks.com, you'll find the search bar at the top of the site. If you're on mobile, click the magnifying glass. And if you put in Erick, Erick, you will get a package from Omaha Steaks, and you'll be able to see it. You get free burgers included in the package. And then minimum order required at checkout, you put in Erick as your promo code, you get $30 off. It's incredible savings at Omaha Steaks. You can get the bacon wrap fillets, you can get the chicken breast, you can get the Omaha Steak burgers, the gourmet jumbo franks, the caramel apple tartlets. You get free burgers. Don't forget the pork chops. Don't forget the potatoes au gratin. Don't forget the mini chocolate cakes. They're delicious. 50% off site wide, $30 off at checkout with my name, omahasteaks.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is the third hour of the Erick Erickson Show here nationwide. The phone number 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Delighted to have you. If you text the word donate to 33777, I'd appreciate it because I got a great group out there called Help the Persecuted, and this time of year they're spending an enormous amount of time overseas in the Middle East helping persecuted Christians. And with the fall of Syria, there are a lot of people to help. It's a great, great cause. If you text donate to 33777, I'll send you the link. And also, if you text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, we'll be doing the show. I will be doing the show on Tuesday next week on Christmas Eve. In most parts of the country, it'll re-air on Wednesday for Christmas. Some stations, I think, go all day Christmas music, but those that don't, you'll have it in. If you text Erick to 33777, you'll be able to get the live stream of it on Christmas and Christmas Eve. In fact, we'll start airing it on the live stream at noon on Christmas Eve. It'll repeat until noon on the 26th, so you'll be able to get the Christmas show. I gotta read you some headlines here. These are all from Andrew Friedman at Axios. He's one of their energy climate reporters. Here's headline: 2023-2024 climate change records defy scientific explanation. The year is closing out with more global temperature records that, in aggregate, largely defy what many climate scientists expected for 2024. Among the potential factors driving this year's as well as 2023's record warmth is the unsettling possibility that global warming is accelerating and the planet's climate behaving differently than expected. If so, the climate scenarios that form the basis for countries' decarbonization goals could be faulty, with higher warming levels and greater societal consequence likely to arrive sooner than expected. According to Copernicus data, that is the Copernicus Climate Change Service, November was the 16th out of the past 17 months during which global average surface temperatures exceeded the 1.5 degrees Celsius target relative to pre-industrial temperatures. Here's the next one. Again, Andrew Friedman at Axios. This one's from 6 hours ago. Warm winter days surge across Europe, North America, and Asia. Winters are rapidly warming across the northern hemisphere because of human emissions of greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels, a new report shows. This is now being seen in many more days with temperatures above freezing. Many warm winter days mean fewer opportunities for winter recreation and can have knock-on effects on water supplies during the following warm season. Climate change has added at least an additional week of winter days with temperatures above freezing each year during the past decade in more than 1/3 of 123 countries analyzed. The analysis compares recent trends with what would be expected to occur in a world without increasing amounts of heat-trapping greenhouse gases. You know, one of the things that newspapers and news outlets are doing these days, like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am, the flagship paper, has hired environmental activists paid for by environmental groups to hysterically cover climate change. So they're using nonprofits to hire climate reporters to hysterically cover climate so that everybody knows there's climate disaster coming. It's all a bunch of left-wing environmental groups paying these reporter salaries, and they disclose it at the bottom that this coverage was subsidized by, covered by, sponsored by left-wing activist group that we're not going to tell you is a left-wing activist group, but it's happening. It's what they do with the trans issue as well. They get a bunch of reporters in newspapers across this country and news outlets who come from left-wing interest groups who report on these left-wing issues from a left-wing perspective. And the news media gets to the left of everybody on this stuff. But the climate one is most hysterical. Now, I want to go back to the first one I read. And again, this is from Axios. This is from yesterday. New data from the NOAA, NASA, and the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service show the planet had just had its second warmest November on record. According to the data, November was the 16th out of the past 17 months during which global average surface temperatures exceeded the 1.5 degree target relative to pre-industrial temperatures. Separately, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found that so far this year, 6 continents have had their warmest temperatures on record for the year so far, while Asia has ranked second warmest. We have no idea. Listen to this sentence. At the American Geophysical Union conference in Washington last week, top climate researchers discussed how to account for the steep, as yet incompletely explained warming spike seen during 2023 and 2024. It's hysterical. It's alarmist. It's scary. However, as I noted on radio way back when, on January 15th, 2022, the Hunga Tonga Hunga Haiape volcano in the Pacific exploded. The volcano triggered tsunamis in the South Pacific. It sent a massive plume of water vapor into the stratosphere. And throughout 2023, scientists had increased the estimates of how much water vapor went into the stratosphere. Originally, scientists thought 50 million metric tons of water went into the atmosphere. Now, they've revised it to 150 million metric tons, which equates to, get this, 40 trillion with the T gallons of water injected into the stratosphere. From January of 2022 to the summer of 2023, scientists produced papers warning that we were going to get hot on the planet and that global temperatures could exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, when I originally pointed that out, a left-wing reporter named Rachel Friesen, decided to fact-check me and say there was no guarantee this would be the case. But I want to read you the headlines. I've done this before. Just bear with me. This is what NASA said on August 2nd, 2022. The huge amount of water vapor hurled into the atmosphere as detected by NASA's microwave limb sounder could end up warming Earth's surface. This is NPR, August 3rd, 2023. Tonga's volcano sent tons of water into the stratosphere. This could warm the Earth. The violent eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Haiape volcano injected an unprecedented amount of water directly into the stratosphere. The vapor will stay there for years, affecting Earth's climate, scientists say. The New York Times, September 22nd, 2022. Scientists say water vapor injected into the stratosphere by the volcanic eruption in January of 2022 may have a slight, though temporary, warming effect. Live Science, September 24th, 2022. The explosive event increased atmospheric water by 5% and could warm the Earth for years. Space.com, November 3rd, 2022. The cloud rose so high that scientists had to explore unusual methods to infer its peak altitude. Nature, December 19th, 2022. Major volcanic eruptions are well-known drivers of sudden climate change. The effect of the recent major eruption of Hunga Tonga Hunga submarine volcano on the January 15th, 2022 may be very different from that of prior eruptions. The warming event may last for up to 3 decades. New Scientist, January 12th, 2023. The massive eruption of a Tongan volcano in January 2022 has made it more likely we will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming within the next 5 years, but the effects should disappear by 2035. Carbon Brief, January 15th, 2023. The eruption of Tonga's underwater volcano in 2022 may cause global temperatures to rise, raising the risk that at least 1 year in the next 5 will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold. Phys.org, January 25th, 2023. Models show the Tonga eruption increases the chance of global temperatures rising above 1.5 degrees Celsius. In a paper published in the journal Nature Climate Change, the group suggests the impact will be large enough to push global temperatures above the 1.5 degree limit targeted in the Paris Agreement in 2015. Here's Forbes from January 30th, 2023. Year-old Tonga eruption to keep global weather wild for years. The problem is the blast emitted 50 million metric tons of water into the atmosphere, an increase of 5%. In turn, that will mess with climate. And on they went. So let's get back to today's hysteria from Axios. The year is closing out with more global temperature records that in aggregate defy what climate scientists expected. Among the potential factors driving the year's record warmth is the unsettling possibility that global warming is accelerating and the planet's climate behaving differently than expected. If so, climate scenarios that form the basis for countries' decarbonization goals could be faulty. Notice there is no mention of the volcano. It was all over 2022 and 2023, and now suddenly we have no idea. We have no idea. You know what? Maybe we got things wrong, and maybe industrial nations need to cut back even more quickly. It's all fear scenario. Scientists predicted after this volcano put 150 million metric tons of water in the atmosphere. Remember, the initial reports, even some of the headlines said 50 million, and they've revised it to 150 million metric tons, 40 trillion gallons of water spread out across the atmosphere. Water is a known global warming agent. Water is known to trap heat. Global temperatures were widely predicted to go above 1.5 degrees Celsius because of this massive volcano spewing that much water into the atmosphere. And now the climate actors are like, we have no idea what's causing it. We may have to do more and get industrial countries to shut down quicker. Never let a crisis go to waste. Democrats, when kids are killed in a school shooting, immediately rush for gun control. Never mind that the proposals that they put forward would not have stopped it. When the world gets warm because of a volcano, the climate scientists do the same thing. Never let a crisis go to waste. They rush forward with ambitious goals to punish the West. Notice India, Brazil, Russia, India, China, none of them are going to follow this stuff. The BRIC countries, they're not going to follow it. China is not going to scale back. The United States right now produces less carbon emissions than we did in the year 2000. 25 years later, we're producing less than we were in 2000. China, not so much. But do the Chinese care? No. They give lip service to the communist environmentalists who bend over backwards to fawn over the communist Chinese and say it's those evil capitalists. We need command and control economies. They're not letting this crisis go to waste. And this crisis isn't a crisis. It was predicted in 2022 that what is happening right now would happen. And even the reporters who covered, like, we have no idea. They have memory hold a massive volcano because they hate you and capitalism and wish to destroy our economy.
He's got the courage to tell you the actual truth.
Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson. The phone number 877-973-7425. William, you're going to be the next caller today. Welcome to the show. How are you? Great. What's going on? Mm-hmm. You know, it's. I think it's because they know exactly what they are, and they haven't been forthcoming in what they're doing, and they don't have a problem with them there. I think that's the issue. We've got lasers that can hit them. You don't have to fire bullets. We've got drones that can track the drones. We've got ways to get these drones, and the government's not doing it, which suggests to me they aren't worried about it, don't have a problem with it, and know what they are. And now the FBI, by the way, literally as I'm sitting here talking, the FBI has just released a public reminder to not shoot at drones in New Jersey. They also are telling people don't shoot lasers at the drones because why? Again, people are confusing airplanes for drones. And you get a red or a green laser in a pilot's eyes, it's going to mess up their eyes on landing. You don't want to do that. It creates a dangerous situation. So, so the FBI is telling people don't shoot them down and don't shoot lasers. And this is why, look, there's a panic spreading, if they're legitimate, and it sounds like they're legit and the government knows what they are, they should be forthcoming with people and say exactly what they are. They're private commercial drones testing government programs for the government, or they're people confused and seeing commercial or civilian aviation. And just be honest with people instead of dance around. Well, they're illegal drones. Illegal drones are allowed to fly. Tell us what they are. You seem to have an idea, Mr. Government, when you speak from Mayorkas or John Kirby or the FBI or anyone else. And where is Christopher Wray? He hadn't resigned yet. Get him out there talking to people. But nobody's doing it. It's getting to a level of hysteria, I'm afraid. And someone's going to wind up shooting a gun at a plane landing in New Jersey or New York if we're not careful. If the government could just come out. Now, I gotta move on to other stuff. When we come back, I'll take more of your phone calls. 877-973-7425 if you want to be a part of the program. As always, text Eric to 33777. When we come back, the lie of the year. The government of the United States has created lots of lies this year. But PolitiFact has decided the big lie of the year is Donald Trump talking about pets in Springfield, Ohio, as opposed to Joe Biden talking about not pardoning Hunter Biden, or the collective media lie that everything was fine with Joe Biden. We'll take your phone calls and more right here on the Erick Erickson Show. Welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. I have to report we nearly things nearly wound up well in a bad place here on this program. I'm a little out of breath. Had to go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom. Only after I was finished using the bathroom did I discover no toilet paper. None. It's very bad. I literally got back. You know, that voice that was just telling you, welcome back to the Erick Erickson Show. That's when I sat down in the chair, catching my breath here. A little bit of a panic, but it's okay. The next stall, thank God, had toilet paper. Good gracious. What a way to end the show today. Dead air because your host is trapped in a bathroom without toilet paper. Wasn't expecting that. A little out of sorts now, but I'm back. I can begin to take phone calls here. Bart, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. Okay, Bart, I just got to tell you, I got to tell you real quick. I'm looking at the call screen. I got Bart, Bob, and Brad all on hold. We got the bees today. Welcome. Yeah, look, I actually think there's something to that. I notice that it is PolitiFact, which is an outlet of the media. You will also note, I think I can say this, that when news outlets lost their credibility, the first thing they did to try to get their credibility back was to establish fact checkers who would just reiterate their narratives, whether they were true or not. So, for example, when Sarah Palin said that there would be death panels in Obamacare, and there were until she exposed them, they said that was a lie, and it turned out to be true. When Barack Obama said you can keep your doctor if you like your doctor, they said that was true, and then it turned out to be a lie. And time again, PolitiFact and other fact checkers out there routinely point out that something Republicans say is a big lie, even when it's true. And when Democrats say something that's a lie, they say it's true. Go back to this volcano. I pointed this out and had a fact checker come after me, not because I was wrong, but because at the time the scientists were still not as insistent as I was that it was true. And now all the scientists have come out and said, yep, actually the volcano is having a lot to do with it. And these members of the media who dismissed it all away as nothing have nothing to say now. They're all surprised by what they're seeing in the world, something that I told you was going to happen because of the volcano. And they said, no, you're wrong. And I was right. And they just can't remember it all of a sudden. Daniel Dale is back at CNN. He's been in the witness protection program, I guess, for most of the Biden administration. They didn't bother fact-checking Biden as rigorously as they would Trump. Hey, you know, that's the other thing, too. So one of the things that bothers me about the fact-checkers is Donald Trump is a man from Queens, New York, who often speaks like a man from Queens, New York, and the media loves to fact-check this. I can't believe Donald Trump would say something like that. He spoke just like a dude in the comment section would from Queens, New York, and the media's like, we must fact check that. Donald Trump likes to use hyperbole. It's always the best. It's the greatest of the great. It's the best of the best, or the worst of the worst, the terrible, low-down scum of the earth. And that's the way people talk, particularly from Queens. And the media's like, oh, we must fact check this. Is it really the worst? Well, there was bubonic plague, so maybe it's not the worst. Therefore, he lied. They can't help themselves. They've discredited themselves. And the fact that for 4 years they've lied to cover Joe Biden's condition, they have lied about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, they've lied about the Biden family, they lied about Joe Biden and pardons, and now they're deciding that their lie of the year is actually an intentional distortion of the record. And by the way, J.D. Vance admitted as much. It was designed to cause the media to have to cover what was actually going on. And they're saying this is the lie of the year because they never want to hold themselves accountable for their own lies. The media wants to hold everyone accountable except themselves, which is one reason they're all going out of the business. I don't know if you've seen CNN and MSNBC's ratings, but they're in the gutter. Fox News has actually gone up in viewers. MSNBC and CNN have collapsed. Why? Because people are tired of the arrogance of a media that lacks humility. And CNN and MSNBC, and I have a lot of friends at CNN and I like the network, but that is a network that has gotten very arrogant and does not like to admit when it's wrong and does not like to show humility in its coverage. And it's a problem. All right, Bob, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show, Bob. How are you? I'm well. Mm-hmm. Look, I would like for them to do this, but you know and I know they'll get a bunch of socialist partisans out there to doctor it up with whatever they want to say. And, you know, I got to admit, I am at this point in my life willing to say I think that humanity plays a role in the climate. Why? Because we are a symbiotic system of living creatures, both plant and animal, who together shape our climate. So, yes, I think we play a role. And there are billions of us, and we produce industrial equipment and industrial pollution and all that. That being said, we're also on a little blue orb that is circling a giant nuclear reactor that is itself circling a giant black hole. And we, on our planet, none of us have ever been alive when our sun is at the position it is around the Milky Way, around the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. We don't know. We have no records. We know that the world has been hotter than it is now before humanity even existed on the planet. So my personal sense is that, yeah, humanity plays a role in the climate, but also nature plays a role in the climate. And I would venture to say that nature plays a bigger role than humanity plays in the climate. And whether we play a role or humanity or nature plays a role, we should be adapting to it instead of trying to abandon the comforts of the 21st century and live in caves again so that environmentalists can feel good about themselves. We are very adaptable as a people. No one is predicting the world is going to be so hot that we're not going to be able to survive it. So adapt to it. Just adapt. We got plenty of ways to adapt to the climate changing. We might as well adapt to it. Should we be good stewards of the earth? Absolutely. I'm not saying just pollute willy-nilly. We should be good stewards. God gave us a planet. We should be taking care of it. Leave it better than we found it. At the same time, God also gave us fossil fuels. He gave us dinosaurs. This is the genius of the Lord God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. He gave us dinosaurs on like the 5th or 6th day. And then he sent a meteor and he wiped them out so that millions of years later, the descendants of Adam and Eve would have fossil fuels to fuel their cars and their rocket ships to other planets. And God gave us oil. We should treat it as a blessing and a resource to be stewarded wisely for this planet until we can figure out how to turn hydrogen into an easily accessible fuel source. See, the goal here is not actually batteries. Batteries are a nonsense marketing scheme. It's actually hydrogen. Once we figure out how to readily use hydrogen for a fuel source, we can put the fossil fuels behind us. We don't need the batteries. We don't need half measures. By the way, speaking of, there's some breaking news happening right now. Honda and Nissan have decided to merge, and they're going to rope Mitsubishi into it as well because Nissan apparently owns more than a quarter of Mitsubishi, so they want to wrap the three of them together into a new car company to be able to compete against the Chinese dumping electric vehicles on planet Earth. So we'll get a new big one. We'll see. Now, notice they waited, even though they're a Japanese company, they still have to deal with American regulators because they're a global company. Notice they've waited until the end of the Biden administration to decide they need to merge. Not a coincidence, even though they're Japanese. Bob, or I'm sorry, we had Bob. Now we're going to Brad. All the bees today, Brad. How are you? What, sacrificial sock? Yeah, that's true. Yep, yeah, wow. Yep. That is true. That is true. For high school boys, it's something else, but we better move on from there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to track that one down. And, part of the problem, too, for all the extreme temperatures is because of development and the heat island effect, a lot of those temperature monitoring stations used to be in grassy areas. Yeah, and now they're at tarmacs at airports, and so you do get absorbed heat on the black tarmac, and so suddenly the temperature's hotter there. So yeah, I don't doubt that temperatures have gone up a little bit, but also we're skewing it with these models of temperature stations that used to be out in wilderness and are now in the middle of a city just because of growth. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. Now I gotta say though, I mean, if we're gonna be honest about it, the hottest day on planet Earth really was August 9th, 1945, and no one's ever going to set that record again. The temperature station in Nagasaki records it. Yeah, well, okay. Brad, my point totally sailed over you. Hottest day on record, August 9th, 1945. That's the day the bomb went off in Nagasaki. Yeah, it has been a week. I can't believe it's only Tuesday and it feels like it's Friday. Yeah, all right, Brad, I got to let you go there. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, hottest day on planet, hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth, August 9th, 1945, maybe August 6th, 1945. But yeah, things went boom. Sorry. Have I mentioned I have dark humor? We must move on to Hillsdale College because right now you can sign up for a course at Hillsdale College on the Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. Y'all, this is completely free. It's actually a great introductory system into how Hillsdale teaches classes. You get to experience it yourself, and they're like 30-minute lectures from one of their great assistant professors of English at Hillsdale College, so that you can get a sense, one, of Charles Dickens and the meaning and the plots and the depth of what's in Christmas Carol, but also get a sense of what Hillsdale College is all about and how unique they are. All you do is go to erickforhillsdale.com today. You can sign up and take these three. Do them at your own pace. You get a certificate of completion once you've done them from Hillsdale College, certifying you actually went through a program at Hillsdale College. You don't have to pay a thing for it. And you can also sign up for Primus. It is completely free. All you have to do is go to erickforhillsdale.com today, ERICK, erickforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College. Find out why they're so special, why they're so unique. And this is perfectly timed for the Christmas season. A class on Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. It is 6 30-minute lectures. Do it at your own pace. You get a certificate of completion when you're done from Hillsdale College. And you learn a lot about just even the background and the backdrop and the deeper themes that Charles Dickens was reflecting in his story. Go to Erick, ERICK, erickforhillsdale.com today. Sign up. It's completely free.
You're listening to The Erick Erickson Show, the perfect blend of news, analysis, opinion, and cooking. Hang on. Is that right? Yeah, cooking.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need to play you some audio here. I don't have the video of this. Just listen. Let me make sure I've got my sound routed so you can appreciate this. This is Vice President Kamala Harris.
This as we close.
I can't believe someone like that lost. Wow. That's just not good. It's not good writing. It's not good delivery. She takes herself too seriously in that, but the context in which you live, just, my gosh. Kamala Harris was not a good candidate. You know, they're now debating whether or not she should run for governor in California in 26 and lay some groundwork in an election there to then run for president in 28. And some are arguing that she can't do 26 and be California's governor because that would then forestall her ability to run for president. I wish she would run again. In all seriousness, I hope Kamala Harris runs for president again so people can see just how bad a candidate she was. Because otherwise, she allows this mythology to escape that, oh, she only had 170 days. There was nothing she could do. She could have done a lot. She was just a terrible candidate. And people want to rewrite 2020, so let's have a do-over in 28 against Vance, and people can be reminded what a horrible candidate she was, who took herself too seriously and never did the work for the job.